Now that we know some of the basic tools, let's continue and discover more about the pen tool. If we click on the pen tool, you'll notice that there are 4 tools. We've used the pen tool and we've used the anchor point tool. Let's now have a look at the add and delete anchor point tools. Whenever you select any of the tools and you hold the command key, it will actually change to either the direct selection tool or the selection tool, depending on what was the last one of the 2 that you used. So the last tool I used was the direct selection tool, and so when I select add anchor point tool, I hit command and I now have my direct selection tool, which means I can select objects or deselect objects by clicking off them. I would like to add an anchor point to make this rectangle into a house shape. So I first want to find the center of the rectangle. So I select it by, even though I'm on the pen tool, I can hit command and now I have access to the direct selection tool. I need to first bring up the ruler, which is command R, and it will appear above and to the side. So I will go to the ruler on the left hand side and drag a vertical guide to the center of my selected object, align it with the center mark of the object. Now I would like to actually use this guide, this blue guide, to place an anchor. So anchor there, hold down my command key, and now I can just drag up. It's as simple as that. I can add anchor points and I can then drag them in. Yeah, every so often this will appear if you've missed the actual path. The delete anchor point is the tool that gets rid of anchor points. The delete anchor point is far more useful when you want to make some kind of correction. Let me just zoom in. If you hold the space bar on your keyboard, this little hand will appear. No matter what tool you're on, this little hand will appear. So when you have that little hand and you click, you can move around your artboard to a more kind of convenient location. And I'd like to also to get rid of that guide. I don't want to see that guide, so I hit command colon. Okay, select the object. Make sure that I hit the anchors, not the handles. The handles won't delete, it's the anchors that will delete. Now pause and have a go. The shape builder tool is one of these tools that you come after making a preliminary rough sketch. You could use, for example, the pen tool to make a shape. Let me just get rid of the fill for a moment. It's a bit annoying. You can use the line segment tool. I'm actually using the pencil tool at the moment. So I've made a whole bunch of shapes using the pen tool, the pencil tool, and the line segment tool. Now, none of these things are actually shapes. They're all individual lines that appear just to crisscross. Now, if I actually want to use these as shapes, they actually have to be converted into shapes. If I was to select all those 3 lines, then go to my fill, then you're going to see this kind of erratic thing. So that's not a strictly a closed shape. So the shape builder tool is probably the most convenient way to make shapes. We select all the lines that we want to incorporate into making a shape, and what you'll notice is this little grid, this grey tone that comes up between the lines. That now is our shape. So if we, because there's no stroke, sorry, there's no fill, you're just seeing this opening as white. But in fact, if we double click, we can have, there we go. Now, what happens to these things that fall outside the shape? Well, we just delete them. And now we have our shape. Let's try it on the line segment tool selection. Go to our shape builder, bam. We can go to our eyedropper, and with the eyedropper we can copy whatever stroke and fill arrangement is here and apply it to what we just selected. There we go. And again, let's just delete all the leftover bits. Okay, now that's all well and good for single shapes. What happens if we want to make a more complex form? Well, we can overlap these things, and we can now make additional shapes, which is the interior, where all of these, let's select everything. So this can be a shape, that can be a shape, and this can also be a shape. So let's go back to our shape builder, shape, 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 shape. Okay, and we can now just drag these out. Shape builder. Why don't you now pause and have a go? Another way of creating shapes is to use outlines. Now, all this requires is the creation of a line, and you can use the line segment tool. You can use the brush. You can use the pencil. It really doesn't matter what you use. What does matter is the stroke weight. With the line weight, what you want to do is to make it sufficiently thick, wide, heavy. So with all these, we can outline them. Let's make this a little wider. All right. Okay, so we have our 4 lines. These are not shapes, these are lines, even though they're nice and wide, but they're still just lines. We can now make these into shapes by going to Object, let's go to Path, and Outline Stroke. And now we have shapes. What this allows us to do is, of course, all those great things we do with Pathfinder or with we can actually combine these if you wish. Of course, Pathfinder is the go-to tool, but also now you know all about the shape builder. With Pathfinder, we can go. Let's me bring up. Go to Window, Pathfinder, and we can do a divide. And let's see what we would come up with. Let's do the same sort of thing with type. Let's make this a little larger, holding the shift key so we keep proportions. Please never, ever, ever deform type. So when you want to enlarge it, you always must hold down shift key as you enlarge from the corners. Just drag to enlarge. How about we put our initials in? ES, a little larger. Select a font, Arial bold, that's pretty good. With our type selected, we can now either go to type, create outlines, here we go, or we could have gone to object, expand. Okay, so once we've done that, I wouldn't mind just ungrouping them. It's important to understand that these are no longer editable in the same way you would when typing something in. They are shapes in the shape of a particular font, Arial bold. What I like to do with these is to show you now how they can be treated just like any other shape. So I'll make a rectangle and make a little rectangle. Select all three shapes, and what we can do now, Pathfinder, go to divide and ungroup, and then we can just remove and create negative shapes. Alrighty, why don't you have a go?